Welcome to our Planetary Annihilation live stream for February 1st, 2013. I'm John Mavor, and I'm here with Howard Mostrom, our sound composer, designer extraordinaire. And this segment is going to be 100% about the sound and music in the game, mostly music.
Yes.
So, we have a few different things we're going to do here, but the first thing I wanted to do was just talk to Howard and kind of introduce him. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay. I'm Howard. I'm from here, one of the few here from the area. I'm composer, sound designer, audio director over here, and you want to know how I got started?
Yeah. I'd like to hear a little bit of background. I think people are always interested. To give some background to people, getting into the games business as a composer is incredibly difficult, if not impossible. So, I'm curious how you got in the industry. What have you done before? Maybe just a little bit of background. I think people would like to hear that.
I went to school for music, and after doing that, I went and started working in the studio industry. So I started doing television commercials, jingles, working with bands, worked on some movies and stuff like that. And eventually started really low in the ranks, doing internships, and worked my way up till I was running the sessions and doing all that kind of stuff. And finally, I met working at one of the sessions, met a guy named Frank Bree, which was the original guy from TA.
Yeah, Frank did the sound effects in TA.
Yep. Right. And then we started. I joined him at Gas Powered Games, and we did a bunch of games there. And then came here to Uber, and worked on MNC and all that kind of stuff.
So one of the things that I thought was really interesting is the place where we're going to record the Planetary Annihilation soundtrack.
Yes.
Is a place that you've actually done a bunch of recording at as an engineer before, because of the truck that you used to work with. Right?
Sure, yeah. The studio I used to work for, we had a remote truck that we'd record the scores. Now they have a built-in facility there, but we'd actually pull up a truck and record the orchestra there. So I'm very familiar with the setup and everything. It's a wonderful, wonderful sounding room. Like you get chills just having the orchestra there and hearing it live. It's pretty amazing.
It's used by all kinds of games, right? We recorded Total Annihilation there.
Yeah.
Amen in the Cave Dog days, the soundtrack that never got released. We did there.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole list of other.
There's a whole bunch of Blizzard stuff, Bungie stuff. It's all over a ton of movies have been recorded there.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great place.
Yeah. It's a wonderful place, and the room itself it's really, really, really long, and the acoustics are just gorgeous.
So one of the issues that we ran into trying to do this segment is we wanted to kind of show everybody what Howard's work environment is like and all that kind of stuff. And the production studio that we use here for our live streams it's not easy to transfer this stuff into his office. So, we've put together a little kind of pre-produced segment that we're going to broadcast here that's called Howard's Corner, that kind of shows off, what he does and how some of this stuff works and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So, we're going to roll into that in a couple minutes. As far as the background goes, is there anything else that you wanted to mention?
Anything in particular you're thinking?
No.
I don't know. I need something more directed than that.
Okay.
But yeah.
Are we ready to roll our segment? Okay. Let's roll that, and then afterwards we're gonna go into some more detail on the music.
Sure. Steve's staring at me.
Over here a little bit. I was wondering,
Hey guys, I'm Howard Mostrom. I'm the audio director and composer for PA. Wanted to give you a little tour of my little spot where I will be doing the music and sound effects. My main machine here is, I have a Mac Pro, and then I run 2 other machines here. And you're showing everybody my mess there. I have 2 other slave machines that work in conjunction with my Mac Pro here. I use Digital Performer for all my MIDI and Pro Tools for my audio, and then Sibelius for all my notation. And all my samples are triggered from this machine and then comes directly onto these other machines and then back all through the internet. So I can hit play on Digital Performer here, and it comes up over on these machines here. All my sound sources here, my choirs over here, my orchestra over here, my percussion over here on this other computer. And then I can trigger them from at any point just by selecting them here on my computer. Whatever instrument I want to select. And it's just right there. And I can just start composing from there.
Might be a little much for neighbors. I mean, I don't give a shit, but the guys next door.
Who cares?
You share a wall.
I'm moving. I hear him yelling all the time. This is not appropriate. Blah, 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 blah. So I don't care if I'm loud because he's much louder than I am. Let's start the whole thing over again. So I have baffles here on the wall that kind of help stop some of the high-end reflection. It's a smaller room, so the high-end reflection is very prominent. A couple of synthesizers that I don't really use except for messing around for the most part. Underneath my speakers here, you can see some 2-inch tape, how they used to actually record audio. Gone are those days for the most part. Monitor controller here to switch between monitors. This is a mic tree for our microphone for doing recording. A little mixer used for recording and or mixing the different synthesizers and computer outputs and all that kind of stuff. I have tons of different speakers, as you can see, just so I can switch between different speaker setups so I know how they'll sound on different types of speakers. My favorite monitor right here is this Eurotone, actually. Just total crap, but it's my favorite speaker. I bring it with me everywhere because if it sounds good on this speaker, it sounds good anywhere. I also use an Akai Iwi, which is kind of a fun little instrument. It's kind of a combination of a clarinet and saxophone, and this is just kind of like the built-in sounds that come into it. What I use it for is triggering actual other instruments and select trombones. I use this because it's a lot more expressive. I can control my breath, how much I'm biting, the pitch, vibrato, everything all in one swoop. It's a very, very, very expressive instrument. One of the most challenging things is you can do stuff virtually that you can't do with an orchestra, and vice versa. There's certain things that you can do with an orchestra that are very, very tough to do virtually. So in this orchestral project, it's one of the challenges and fun things are writing for things that you cannot necessarily hear. For instance, string gliss or some of those things are very, very difficult to emulate within the technology that we have. As cool as it is, it's just not quite as cool as an orchestra. I can select my different instruments and from here, and it just displays them as MIDI information, but it's also as notation. Once the orchestrator gets their hands on the score, we'll work back and forth trying to get a finished printed score. We'll make it so these notes are easier for each individual instrument to read. Once the score is printed, we'll go to the copyist and they'll do all their work for printing out all the parts. We'll probably have like 100 pounds worth of music. We'll set the recording date and record it with the orchestra, and it's gonna be a blast. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm having so much fun interacting. Me and Steve have had countless conversations. Actually, it seems everybody at Uber just about plays an instrument or whatnot. If you guys have any questions or anything, please go to the Facebook page or to our Uber forums, and we'll answer them on the live stream. Well, thanks for hanging out with me. Time for me to make some noise. Later.
Are you awake, Howard?
I am not awake. I really am not awake right now. Do I look as tired as I feel? Yes.
All right, we're back.
All right. Woohoo.
We back live? Yeah. Okay. So, we put together that segment, like we said, because it's awfully difficult to show that stuff. But there are a few things that we can show, right, and that we can talk about.
Sure.
So, set the scene for us here. What's the difference between the music that we've got here and the music that's going to be the final music?
It's a huge difference. Well, I'm getting ready to play some music that I've mocked up. It's all synthetic. It's fake. It's very limited in what I'm capable of doing. So the other stuff I'll have a team of people that have recordists, other people who there'll be a guy there who's just monitoring, listening for the click track and making sure that's not bleeding from the people's ears into the hall.
I got a funny story about that, actually. We were doing
the click track?
Yeah, we were doing some recording, and the click was coming through the recording, right, which is a no-no.
It's horrible.
And so somebody, I think in the truck or whatever, was like, somebody needs to turn down the click. And then that got transferred into where the recording area was, and somebody was like, turn down the click.
Yeah.
And then they start again, and like, no, it's too loud.
Yeah.
Do it again, start again. No, it's too loud. Turns out they were just saying somebody needs to turn down the click.
Oh, no.
But there was nobody that was actually there to turn it down, so it wasn't actually getting changed.
Oh,
so
that's fun.
somebody had to figure out, oh wait, no, it's actually not changing. Go turn that down. Most people probably don't even know what the hell that is, but it's like the metronome sound that the musicians get in their ear to set tempo when they're recording, basically.
Right. And I've had to be that guy, actually, at times where I'm literally in the room listening for, the click needs to come up because this section is really, really loud. This needs to come down because this is quiet and it's going to be heard and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of interesting.
So to get back to the music side, I mean,
sure.
It's basically what you're saying is this is some of the music, but the actual implementation of it is going to be recorded by real guys. So you haven't put a ton of effort into the synth parts to make them sound super good.
Right. If it was going to be just exclusively synth, there'd be a lot of things I would do to make it sound better. I'd actually go through each individual instrument and bounce it out at individual waves and process them, and it's just not worth the time to do that when we know that somebody that's their job. They're going to play cello on this, and it's not worth the time to go through and make it sound as close to that as possible. But it'll be fun. So
one of the things that we talk about quite a bit, vis-a-vis the music is, what's the inspiration for the different pieces and all that kind of stuff. So
sure.
maybe we should get into some different pieces here.
Okay. Well, let me just say. I guess my inspiration. I mean, we're blowing up planets, so it obviously has to be huge and epic and everything. But I think that it's important to say that we do need to have a varied experience as well, because it can't always be something that's huge and gigantic. In order for there to be something that's big and gigantic, there has to be something that's small as well. So I think creating those moments, and not that they're going to be wimpy or anything like that, but creating those smaller moments, I think, are very, very important to establish that scale. And one thing I would say about that is if you guys don't have subwoofers, get subwoofers. And I'll probably say that like 5 more times. For PC especially, I mean, there's lots of 2.1 systems that are out there that are just awesome. They have great subwoofers. Steve has one that's a Cambridge audio thing, and that thing kills. The subwoofer is great, and for blowing up planets.
And what does something like that cost?
I think Steve's was like 170 or something like that.
So really, there's not too many excuses to not have decent sound.
I mean, it's going to be worth it. If you don't have a subwoofer, you're going to be missing a part of the experience. How can you not have a lot of rumble with a planet blowing up? Really, I mean, so that kind of stuff. If you're not having something that's playing back the audio correctly, you're missing half the experience. So I just want to encourage you guys to do that. And I was going to bring my subwoofer in to show you guys, but I totally spaced.
And probably wouldn't translate over the stream very well.
No,
anyway.
no, it wouldn't. But I was just to show you. But yeah, so we can go into some of the music.
Yeah,
so I have a couple tracks here I've prepped, and again, this is all just. It's all at this point too. I'm trying to take as much time as I can experimenting and just trying to find different textures and where I can push the boundaries, and just trying to find the soul of the game.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we talked about recently was how important it is, from my perspective, to have the different planet types be represented in the music, right? You know, the Earth kind of, you know, airy, kind of cheery thing versus the desolate moon versus, frankly, the malevolently evil metal planets, right?
Yeah. And the airless thing, making sure that there's something that, and I think that'll be reflected in the music and as well in the sound effects as well, and in the environment. So I have plans for changing. You know, there's lots of different factors we can play into the different terrain and atmosphere and stuff like that. So huge plans for that. So
let's play some stuff.
All right. So this first thing I'm going to play is something I was thinking for the kind of more metal, kind of imminent, kind of just very kind of doom and gloom. Something's coming up, and you better build your base pretty quick, kind of thing. So along those lines. Let's see. So that theme it's very, like I said, it's like something is coming. It's almost Jaws-esque. I wasn't thinking of Jaws when that happened, but it's very much yes. Here it comes, and then from there I build on and go into other things and stuff. But I just pulled that little clip to kind of show, hey, we want base building to be something it's not a passive thing. It's something that you're very, very engaged in. And when you're building a base, it's even though it's kind of like you're being really smart about things and everything, there is some stuff coming, and you don't know when it's going to happen and whatnot. Yeah. Any thoughts of other things that you want during base building or anything like that?
Well, you know, to me it was, like I said, I want the differentiation between the different planets, especially when you're in that kind of mode. I want to hear some other stuff, though.
Sure.
I mean,
I do like that. I mean, we've talked about before, like having some of the base building music be very much show, you know, what type of environment you're on and that kind of thing. So I think that's something we'll continue on. Here's something kind of similar, but just I was thinking, just trying to go a little bit more angular and a little scarier. And I was thinking, I keep going back and forth for different ideas for airless things. So this might be a little bit more metal, but it's just kind of an idea I was having out there for kind of a airless thing. So again, a very, very, very short clip, but just kind of want to give kind of the sense and the energy of the environment, and I don't even know, that might be that to me seems a little bit more metal than it does airless. But my intent initially was for kind of airless environment, but I think it's going to end up a little bit more metal. So going on, we have some stuff that I was thinking of for more of the more Earth-like environment, the regular ground terrain, and this is a little bit more adventurous, I would say, and it's a little bit more. What I mean by adventurous is it goes a lot more places. It's up and down, and you get a sense of the terrain that you're moving around, and that you're not necessarily. It's not always balls to the wall necessarily, because I do want there to be a lot of dynamics in this, and I want to create.
One of the things that we've talked about is, we're doing this orchestral score.
Yeah.
But, we're not locked into the whole thing has to be orchestral. We keep talking about doing some guitar stuff.
Sure.
Doing some alternate things like, an 8-bit chiptunes kind of deal.
Yeah.
We definitely want to take the music a lot of different interesting places.
Sure.
But the orchestral is going to set the kind of bass, set that bass line.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about doing remixes of stuff and everything too. So yeah. Excuse me.
Well, you promised that you're going to write me some guitar stuff.
I know
to
it.
play on the.
I'm going to.
On the soundtrack.
I'm going to. It'll be fun. And I think, like the Plus thing that they had in TA. There's plenty of opportunities to do stuff like that where we.
Yeah, you already guaranteed that you're going to do Plus Sing.
Right. Exactly. And
when I talked to you about it, you wanted to take it way beyond like anything.
Everything I do.
For those of you that don't know Howard, he's done all of our music and sound effects and pretty much everything that we've done so far, and he's able to not just create music, but to actually integrate sound into the game in a very technical kind of way.
Yeah.
Which also brings up the thing we were talking about with how dynamic the music is going to be.
Sure.
And, that stuff is kind of under your control.
Yeah.
So.
I love to be as deeply as involved in the tech as I can. I've actually started learning some programming and stuff like that, and Forrest has been helping me out. And most of the sound stuff I actually integrate into script. So it's very nice because then I can know exactly how things are going to be triggered, and I can create the sounds with the intention of how I know how it's going to be triggered.
Right.
And same thing with the music. So there's the audio system we're using. We're currently using Fmod, and there's tons of resources and data that I can get back that can change however the audio is going to be treated dynamically, because it's really hard.
I mean, that's part of what you're saying with regards to things like unit sounds changing based on the type of terrain and stuff like that. Right?
Yeah.
You get that information in there.
Yeah, we
airless versus atmosphere and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, global filters that go for the different atmospheres. All that kind of stuff.
Let's play some more music.
Yeah. So this one is, we said this is an Earth, more of an Earth type thing. Kind of going different places here, just kind of really want to create that sense of adventure. These are kind of those quieter moments I'm talking about.
Yeah, we have to have those, right? I mean,
totally. Otherwise, there's no big. So.
Dubstep part's coming up, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. And then the rap right after that.
More hip hop.
Definitely. And the drop right here. So I have this fading out right here, it'll continue to fade out. I might go someplace with this piece else. I have something in my mind, but right now I really like this fade out. Just kind of just keeps going, and the cellos are just still going in the distance. But yeah, and then the wub, then the drop, beat drops, and wub, 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 wub.
So what is this whole dubstep thing anyway? I mean,
it's what popular music is. So.
It's like Skrillex and all that stuff.
Right. It's amazing stuff.
I listen to it at home all the time. You know, everyone in the family
when you're raving. Yeah.
Well, no, like when we're eating dinner or whatever.
Right.
You got the Pandora on, throw it on the dubstep channel. Or
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. It's cool, and it's very effective with, like, you know, visual stuff and movies and everything. But I don't know. It's not gonna last that long. I don't think so. It'll be around for a while, but I'd like this to be a little bit more timeless.
Yeah, and to me that's part of the idea. I mean, you know, these kinds of classical themes can be timeless, and we can still do all of our cool guitar variants or other types of variants on it. But you know, to get a real orchestra in there to record that, I mean, this doesn't this sounds a tenth as good as it will sound with a real orchestra.
Oh,
I mean,
of course.
It just so pops when you.
Yeah.
When you get the right kind of performances in there and the real instruments and everything.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
You know, technology is good, but it sucks compared to real.
Yeah. You know what it's really good at is when you want to just be straight, really just aggressive, you can do the synth stuff very, very well. But when you want to be more expressive and, you know, have this dynamic range, that's really when the orchestra sings, because they can put so much more emotion in.
Well, the real choir too.
Oh, totally. I mean, the choirs I have, I mean, I can sit there and type what lyrics I want them to say, and it's cool, but it's still not, you know, not quite there.
It's like hearing Siri trying to sing a song.
I would love it if I was able to get a license to get Siri to sing a song.
I noticed that people have seen that we're sponsored by Sprite Zero.
Sprite Zero, yes.
The choice of a new generation. Oh wait, no, that's Pepsi. No, we're not sponsored by Sprite. We just buy a lot of their products.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
do you want to open it up to some questions?
Sure.
Or did you have more pieces?
I have another piece, but we can maybe
why don't you play the another piece, and then we'll go into question mode for a bit.
Okay. So this is another piece, just trying to go a little bit different. This is kind of something I was thinking more like maybe a victory condition, or maybe when you're like selecting planets and you're in more of a mode where you're looking for something that's kind of an awe moment. And so this is a little bit happier, a little bit more, yeah, let me just play it. Let me actually just skip ahead here.
I feel happy all of a sudden.
So this will be more.
That's
more.
The shitty fake
this
choir.
This is just like, you know, intro to the stuff that's going to be bigger. And Awesome Head will come out here and eat all the planets or whatever.
It continues to amaze me that Combs' head is now me.
I love it. So yeah, we got to get some like little icon for that or something. Emoticon for that. So, and I just picture this getting bigger and bigger, and you can just picture the guys, the drummers, just.
This is the loading screen.
This is, I don't know. I don't know.
Planet generating.
And what's funny is the choir, I want it to be just, you know, huge on this. So there's stuff I really have planned for this. So yeah, again, just trying to be epic and
It's got a very, certain kind of environmental feel.
Sure. So. But yeah, that's a great example of there's only certain things that I can. There's only so far I can take it until you need that many people in the room to actually to do it. So.
Yeah, I know I keep emphasizing this, but I'm not sure how many people really realize how big of a difference it is between the real, like how much work you actually have to do to work around that normally, right?
Sure.
It completely affects, in both ways too, right? When you're doing synth, you have to compose a certain way, you have to produce a certain way. Real orchestra, it's the same thing. You have different things you have to work around, like you pointed out in the other segment about, can musicians play this, right? Which you don't need to worry about when it's synth,
right?
Computers.
Yeah, because there are little tiny things that could be very, very difficult for certain instrumentalists to get through. That you just have to be conscious of.
Neil Peart writes, it's like,
right.
Keep up with that.
Because they're not necessarily practicing this stuff.
Right.
They
play it cold. Yeah.
Yeah, they play it cold.
Maybe we'll have one run through, right? Maybe. I think typically up here it's probably about 5 minutes of music. We'll record about an hour. But it really depends on how difficult the music is. So that can go lower or it can go higher, but I think that's probably about My point is
average.
they don't get a printout a week before
No.
and get to go and practice this stuff. They basically read the sheet music.
Yeah.
You run through it a few times, and they better be nailing it because otherwise it's not going to sound right.
Nor do they need it. This is what they do, every day. So they're accustomed to doing this. But we just have to make sure that in writing this, that we do it in a way that it's easy for them to read. Because
that's where the orchestrator comes in, and
Yeah.
all of the other kind of stuff, and it's one of the reasons it makes it so expensive.
Sure, but well worth it.
Yeah, definitely.
It's going to be fun.
So let's take a few questions here and see what we've got. Maybe sit back a little bit so
you can see.
I can see it.
Any questions for you guys? Will you put any of these Kickstarter themes or something on SoundCloud? I'm not sure. I think later on as we get going, I'd like to put actually some notation and stuff of some of our themes down and kind of block it in and kind of show the progress of it and kind of show, hey, this is before, probably a little closer to the orchestra date, but this is before, this is after, so you can see the differences. And
part of it is I don't want to send out music like this that isn't tuned up to the level that we want it to be at, right?
Yeah.
So we'll put some stuff out, but
I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time trying to make it sound good. I'd rather spend
just so we can release it exactly.
Yeah.
Or drive towards the goal of getting the game done.
Yes, because there's so many different other things too.
Will you live stream when the real orchestra does the soundtrack? That's actually a really interesting question.
That is a great idea, actually.
I don't know what their internet access is like there, but I'm guessing it's possible.
We'll definitely be recording it.
Yeah, we'll definitely be recording it, so it doesn't have to be live anyway.
Yeah, I don't know how interesting that would be to do a live stream.
Well, if it was all day and the live stream was just up for 8 hours, it might be actually kind of fascinating. I will say, however, though, that not everyone there may appreciate that.
Yeah.
Right? So,
well,
because there's a difference between documentary recording that's edited and live, oh shit, you said something in front of the camera live.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. And especially in that type of environment, it's kind of tough that you don't really want to guard your words necessarily and what you're saying. Not that you're being rude to each other.
What the fuck are you guys doing? That's wrong.
That's an F sharp. But no, that is an interesting idea. Especially, I think for me, I think if it was in a limited time, so then the orchestra can relax at the other portion. But if it's always on, it could make it a little bit weird, I think.
So will the sound change depending on what is happening in games, such as an incoming asteroid? I would say an incoming asteroid is definitely something we would hook an event up to, right?
I would hope so.
The whole idea that this thing is coming in and there's going to be an impact, we can probably build up to it musically. So, with FMod and the game systems and stuff, there's no reason that things like that can't work.
I am always looking for different points that I can tie stuff into, any data, any action that happens, and I'd love to hear anything that you guys have for points that you guys would like to hear something different.
Well, personally, whenever the base is under attack, I want to hear like a klaxon, you know?
Right, well, like sound effect wise, yeah. Maybe, actually, we should record you doing that. So it's...
No, we just use the one out of TA, which is the same one that is used in like every TV show that has a klaxon.
Oh, right. Okay.
And then a Wilhelm scream right after that.
Yes. Yeah. Make an asteroid impact song the Trollolo song. Okay. Would you add some more jazzy style music? That would be fun to do, like a jazz, like we were talking about doing remixes. We could do a jazz remix of one of the tunes too. It'd be kind of fun.
I'm just interested in the heavy metal guitar remix. I mean, that's all I care about.
But oddly, Seattle's one of the biggest jazz jazz scenes in the world. So it's kind of fun.
I can honestly say I've never been to a jazz club in Seattle.
Really, that was actually my major at first was jazz studies. Jazz plus sing. I like cheese. So what other questions do you guys have?
So yeah, battle themes and stuff like that trigger when you get into a battle. I mean, we're not going to do, if anyone ever remembers the old LucasArts iMuse system where it was like, you know, you got shot at and it was like da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. We're probably not going to go to that level of detail, but we'll definitely be paying attention to the intensity of the game, building versus battles and switching back and forth. And it's very easy to feed those kinds of events into the system. So
yeah. I'd like to have things like when your commander launches in, having a song for that, having other definitive points that we can kind of pull out that certain accomplishments happen or whatever.
Yes, the soundtrack is going to get a proper release. We'll have a real produced soundtrack that's part of something that we're doing for the Kickstarter backers, and that'll be available. For sure.
I would love to do a vinyl release.
I'm down with that.
That would be awesome.
You know, we'll have to look at what it costs to do that, but my guess is it's not very extreme.
Yeah, I know you can do smaller runs for them, so you can
limited
have
edition vinyl Planetary Annihilation soundtrack.
I think that would be awesome. And just a big record.
Do you actually have a record player? Because I don't.
I do. I don't have it plugged in right now, but I do have. I probably have, I don't know, 1,000 records or something. There's actually a lot of the records I have that I've transferred to CD and did like remastering of them, so I don't have to listen to the hiss and all that kind of stuff.
You remastered your own shit that you recorded off vinyl.
I have stuff that nobody has remastered yet.
Here's a question: any sounds for zooming in and out?
Oh, that's
like
that's
a whooshing
interesting
sound. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. I don't know. That might get annoying.
I know. I do like the idea of having something to give you a sense of the actual movement. But we also have to consider perf too, so that would have to be some type of looping sound. So
an annoyance level.
I think we could make it not annoying.
I think you could. I don't think I could.
Bob said Bob plays cello, and he said he actually has an electric cello, so that could be kind of interesting to incorporate that into.
Bob and I have actually been talking about doing some jamming. He's been working on his like home jam space.
Yeah, I was at his house the other day.
Yeah, because you've been helping him design that, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we go over
great
there
little setup.
and do some jamming on the soundtrack or whatever, and he can play his electric cello,
Sure,
and I'll do some guitar, and you know, Combs plays the drums.
I think I could briefly kind of mention in the other thing, but yeah, everybody. I think Azo, Matt, and WJ are the only ones who didn't play an instrument. Everybody else in the entire company, everybody else plays some instrument or has in the past. It's kind of funny, but somebody said Uber band.
Yeah, the Uber band. Well, if you're writing the music for it, it'd probably be good.
We could book a studio date and just have the credits movies be the Uber band jamming out.
So a lot of people are asking how easy it's going to be to add in custom sounds and music because of the way that Fmod integrates. Mm-hmm. You know, that's an area that we have to look at in more detail, to be honest. Yeah. If it is difficult, we will figure out a way to make it easier. I'm not sure the exact technical details of what we need to do there because I haven't looked at it that much, but this has been an issue in the past. For example, when we used Exact, it was a nightmare.
Oh, I don't want to even talk about Exact. That was horrible.
Yeah.
I would actually literally, like, to bake my sounds, would kick it off and come back a half an hour later when it was done, and then be able to check my work. It was, thankfully, I ended up getting a second machine just for that, but yeah, it was horrible. But yeah, I think there's some things we can do inside Fmod that would make it so they're not a part of the actual sound banks, and they could trigger that. But it's going to be some work to get that working.
We'll figure out a way to hook it up.
Yeah. Somebody said, is there going to be opera-style music? I wouldn't say opera in particular, but definitely kind of vocal-driven choir stuff. I don't know. It depends.
Not to beat the mod thing to death, but you know, when we look at this game, we look at this as a platform for mods and all that kind of stuff. So whatever we need to do to make it so that we can mod stuff, we will do. So anyway, I don't want to beat this whole thing to death. Let's take maybe a few more questions and then wrap this sucker up, because I think we've been on for almost 45 minutes already.
Is it really? Oh, yeah. Wow. I was trying to think of other things we could talk about, and I guess we won't do that. Cool.
Will we support 128 sound channels? I mean, real channels, virtual channels, what kind of sound channels are you talking about?
We could basically define how many channels we're going to allow and voice limit for each category. There's so much functionality.
Because a couple of people have kind of brought up this concept of like, well, FMOD doesn't do this hardware acceleration of sound and everything, and it's like that stuff is just deader than dead. You just don't need that anymore.
Yeah, why would you want that?
One CPU, if you've got like a normal, quad core or dual core, one CPU can do a ridiculous amount of audio work. I mean, it's just better to just mix it on the CPU these days.
Yeah. Even in my line of work, we used to have dedicated hardware boxes DSP box for everything, and it's everybody's moving away from that. There's not really a reason to do that anymore. Somebody said, is it going to be 5.1? That's a very good question. I don't know that we. I think we will probably have something in place, but
FMOD supports that, right?
It does. I mean, we can totally do that. It does support it,
and it basically for 3D positioning, it will auto kind of do that.
Yeah.
I think the primary question there more is, as we're authoring the music, are we doing it as 5.1? And my guess is probably 2.1 makes sense for music. And the only reason I say that is because I think the environment most people are going to have is going to be more of a 2.1 environment.
I think we will have a surround mode, but my main concern is how that surround folds into stereo and how that translates, because there's a lot of games and a lot of things where you're not hearing what the people intended, because if they're intending it for it to be on a surround system and it folds down and goes to 2 speakers, there's content you're hearing that shouldn't be there. So my main concern is stereo, but I am going to get the surrounds feeling good as well.
How many dubstep will be in there?
Infinite wubs, I don't know. Hey, have you guys thought about actually making specific music for specific characters? Probably.
Maybe for the Mavor Commander.
Yeah, the Mavor Commander, yeah, you get your own theme for that. What other types of themes would you guys like to see, or anything that you guys have in mind? Any unit sounds?
We haven't really started on unit sound design.
I've been conceptualizing a lot, and I've been trying to figure out how to do it. And I think I've been designing a procedural system for parts of it. So some of the things that have like similar weapons, we'll be sharing portions of those. FMOD is really good at scaling, so I'll have a bank of sounds that we can create and layer within FMOD and create different sounds. If we have 10 different units that are very similar, they don't have to sound very, very different if their function is the same. But slightly different, but just not exactly.
Yeah, the sound design actually figuring out the sound effect is the easy part, right? It's like, how and when do you play it, and how does it mix with all the other sounds? And if you have a massive battle with a whole bunch of units, how do you capture that? And what happens when you're zoomed out, from a battle and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on? How do you prioritize things? And these are all the things that we've run into before that are, make this sound design for something that's got this kind of scale more difficult.
Well, I mean, especially as many units as we have potentially on screen, it's I'm going to be doing a lot of things to make sure that it's not that it doesn't get muddy and it doesn't get messy. So I want to do things to limit your scope and focus on what is important and what you're focusing on, and notifications for what actually is important during gameplay, and also systems for when nothing else is going on, that you can hear stuff that is interesting and it's not just silent or anything as well.
So I'm seeing a lot of the same questions over. Some people can rewind and see the answers to their questions.
Somebody said, you're going to have any alien-like synth music? during exploration.
I think some of the desolate kind of airless world stuff might,
Yes.
you know, we could bring in some of that.
Yeah.
You know, I also want to leave a room for for us to go other places in the future too. But
Sure. Yeah, I agree with the airless areas. It's definitely can be a little bit more granular synth driven type thing, but I wouldn't say synthy, but more synth like. Galactic drum and bass. Any event will have a change when the environment changes. Will the music change when the environment changes? That's an interesting question.
well, we're definitely going to, as Asteroid comes in, we'll have some music there.
Sure.
So I don't see why we couldn't say, hey, this planet has now been annihilated, so it's going to thematically be different.
Sure.
Whether that makes, you know, sense from a detail perspective, I don't know. But
There does come a certain point when if you're changing music too often, it's jarring and it doesn't allow you to really be a part of the environment. So if you're changing like back and forth, like a lot of games like first-person shooters, you can change off your character. But if we did that with the commander and like changed because of the state, it would just be really, really annoying.
Jaffa, Kree. Love the Stargate. I think, honestly, I think the questions are starting to degenerate a little bit here.
Okay.
So I say we wrap this up for the day. You know, we've been planning this for a while, and I think it was kind of fun. And I don't know, I don't really have that much else to say. I have a lot of other topics I'd like to cover, but I think those are best held for another discussion. So
Yeah.
maybe there's, yeah, I think we're good.
We good? Okay. Well, thank you guys. It's been fun, and we'll see you soon.
Drink Sprite Zero.